So Joel Edgerton, you might know him from a forgettable role in Disney Plus Obi-Wan series, or perhaps his new movie Train Dreams, that's coming to theaters and Netflix.
He was also in Attack of the Clones.
Yes, he just did an interview with The Hollywood Reporter about his upcoming movie. It's his own The Little Engine That Could, and it's a small budget 2025 drama directed by Clint Bentley. You need this context, as boring as it is, for his comment that got extremely, it was just dragged over the weekend on Twitter. It basically revealed the quiet part that usually actors don't say out loud about their audience. So this movie, Train Dreams, stars Joel Edgerton as Robert Grenier, a logger working on the expansion of the railroad across the U.S., alongside Felicity Jones as his wife Gladys, Clifton Collins Jr., Carrie Condon, and William H. Macy. The story follows Grenier as he navigates a life of quiet grace, marked by love, loss, and his struggle to find his place in a rapidly changing world during the early 20th century. So, I don't know if any of you are just like on the edge of your seats already, dying to go see this when it comes out in theaters in November. I'm certainly not, but here's what he has to say to you if you don't want to pay for tickets.
In this context, guys, you are Bob from the small town in Illinois.
Yeah, that's your name now. You're Bob from Illinois.
You, me, Mary,
You're
we
actually
are all
Bob What's His Head.
We are all Bob What's His Head.
Joel Edgerton says that some of the bottom line box office analysis of movies misses the point. Does Bob What's His Head in some Illinois small town really care what the budget of One Battle After Another is? No. The fact that they spent some extra cash on it?
Bob What's His Head does care, because right now some of the channels that are eclipsing Hollywood in views are not just channels that talk about movies themselves, but channels that talk about movie box office returns. They talk about the budgets, all of that stuff. We do that a little bit. Guys like Valiant Renegade do it very, very well. And it's funny because Hollywood is known for its funny money, crappy bookkeeping to try and make themselves seem like they're never making any money so they can screw the actors out of paychecks. But in general, when it comes down to it, the number one way that you can have a tangible discussion about whether something is successful or not, whether something is popular or not, is whether a movie actually got people to get up, drag themselves out of their house, get in their cars, and go spend basically a down payment on a house to go and see a movie. So there is and there's kind of two industries here. There is the people that talk about movies, and I did a video about Chris Stuckman and Shelby Oaks earlier. When it comes to reviews and discussion of box office, there's two categories of fans now, in my estimation. One are the people that don't care about going to see the movies. They want to hear other people talk about whether movies are successful, or talk about a movie itself, whether it be a review or the box office return or the budgets. And the second category are people that look to people who do movie reviews to basically be their guide as to whether they should go spend that down payment on a movie that weekend. That's kind of their eyes and ears in the industry. But that industry is fast eclipsing Hollywood in a lot of ways. The views attached to a lot of these YouTube channels are the views that a lot of these Hollywood channels would love to be able to get on some of their content.
I want to contextualize his broader point about which kind of movies he wants to be involved in as an actor. He's trying to say that he wants to be in movies that make a cultural impact. And he says, if a movie holds up and lasts and continues to speak to people 10, 20, 30 years in the future, that's the kind of movie that I want to look back on and go, I was involved in that. Whether they make money on the opening weekend, unless some of that money is going in my bank account, I really don't care that much. The sentiment is, I want as many people as possible to watch the movies that I do. If that's in the first week, great. But if it's over 15 years, then it's almost more of a compliment to the movie than the box office just going bananas on the first weekend. And then after making his snide comment about Bob What's His Head, he says about One Battle After Another, which flopped, by the way, that movie is a success because it's not based on a super IP. It's a big drama that's also funny, dynamic, that's at the cinema. It was the #1 movie at the box office for how many weeks? I don't know, but that's a success in my mind. The fact that they spent some extra cash on it, shrugs. I'd make a terrible studio executive.
Yes, you would.
That's the admission at the end of his comment that kind of sums it up, right?
Sinners would be the better example of a movie that was a success at the box office, not based on IP.
We have a 20 from The Amazing Fluffable. Normally, I'm just able to catch you all the day after on Spotify, but I love listening while I work. The only way I keep up with pop culture. Thanks for the content, Bert and Murray.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for tuning in live.
If you listen on Spotify, I hope you checked out my first episode of the PCC Weekend Update. That is a bunch of topics that we do not get into here on the channel. I record those separately, and then I'm putting them into audio format for everybody to listen to. So I hope you check that out.
And by the way, if you are a Spotify listener, you should give us a 5-star rating.
Yes, you should.
So, he's not really understanding the fact that box office success is cultural impact.
Yes.
Like, those things are synonymous.
Okay. So there is a point to be made that there are movies that make a ton of money that, like, I haven't heard. Nobody will remember Minecraft, the movie. Other than the fact that it made some money, nobody will remember it.
Okay,
people will remember
example.
Barbie. People will remember Oppenheimer.
I have another example that might forward his point. Like Jennifer's Body, okay, that
cult classics
flopped. It flopped by all accounts in the box office numbers because they marketed it poorly, and it ended up becoming a cult classic later on as people watched it in the last 15 years. So, and that did have cultural impact despite the fact that it didn't make its money back at first.
Yes.
And now they're talking about making a sequel. We'll maybe get to that some other point in the week.
Well, you know who the middleman is that loses out on this is the theaters. The theaters have to make money, and to do that, you have to actually make movies that people want to see. What I've started to notice is like, okay, so there are people like me who want to hear your elevator pitch. Zombie fights alien on a shark. Love it. I'll go. Perfect.
I hate it.
Let's go. But the point is, the way he pitched those movies, he just described at the beginning from that quote, I just rolled my eyes. And I'm like, nobody cares, bro. Sorry. Nobody cares. It's not going to make any money.
But this interviewer tries to save him by saying, maybe you wouldn't make a terrible studio executive. To your point, with a movie like that, 10 or 20 years down the line, it's a different conversation. It's an investment.
Yes. Okay. So here's the other thing. Then budget actually does matter. The movie about some, what was it, like family man who's a logger? Sure. If the budget of the movie is $10 and a pack of bubble gum, sure, it'll make its money back, no problem. And then you can talk about the strong return on investment. This is why horror movies do so well at the box office. Low box office doesn't matter. It can make $100 million and make 2 or 3 times its budget because they don't spend a ton of money to make them. So the discussion is important.
To that point, Train Dreams has a budget reportedly around $16 million.
Not that bad.
It's going to get released in theaters and then go to Netflix, I think maybe 2 weeks later.
And I guess one of his other points is like, no, he mentions pay VOD later too. Look, that is not the sexiest of discussions, as one might say. Like when there's that famous clip from Hot Ones where Matt Damon talks about how streaming killed the mid-budget movie. Basically, like they were never expecting to make their money back at the box office. They would expect to make a certain amount of it in the first couple of weeks. After that, it was DVD sales and pay-per-view, if you know what pay-per-view is, if you're my age. Things like that are how they made their money back right now. But it seems like he's hesitant to want to even engage in that discussion because he's saying, why do you want to talk about the budgets of these movies? Because people think it's interesting. When you went through the last 5 years of movies getting these $200-300 million budgets, look at Mission Impossible this year was like the 6th, or it was like the 8th highest grossing movie of the year and still lost hundreds of millions of dollars because it cost so much to make. That's interesting to people. Oddly enough, more interesting than most of the movies are putting out.
I am now officially calling on Valiant Renegade to poll his subscribers and find out if he has at least one subscriber on YouTube named Bob who lives in Illinois. Because I guarantee you that he does. Yep. And that would be the ultimate clapback to what Joel Edgerton is saying.
I guarantee you there's at least one in there.
To bring it back to that snide remark about Bob What's-His-Head in Illinois.
Because they hate you, and they hate Middle America.
What this is about. This is about the disdain that actors have for their own audience. And Dakota Johnson folds into this conversation as well. She recently talked about how bleak it feels to be in the film industry at the moment as one of the actors. And she is trying to say that we, the actors, understand better what people want to see than the people in the audience.
No.
She said, "It's really effing bleak in this industry. It is majorly disheartening. The people who run streaming platforms don't trust creative people or artists to know what's going to work. And that is just going to make us implode. It's really heartbreaking. It's just so effing hard. It's so hard to get anything made. Everyone who makes decisions is afraid. They want to do the safe thing, and the safe thing is really boring."
Do you know why? Because they're spending hundreds of millions of dollars. When you're going to give someone $200 million to make something, you're not going to say, hey, let's take the biggest risk in the world to do that. For instance, think about what they did with Anyone But You, where they could have made more money to take it to streaming, but it wouldn't have had any cultural impact at all. It was incumbent on the actors there to take the hit and be willing to put that movie in the theaters for the chance at some type of cultural significance. But I would argue that the executives know just as little about what the audiences want as the actors do. They're just going based off of which IPs they own that sell the best or do the best. There are the rare creatives who are so good at their job that they're going to get a strong return on investment most of the time anyways. You could put Christopher Nolan in that category. Even after a fact, I think Ryan Coogler has the ability to layer his art well enough that he's going to bring audiences in and make it something that people are going to want to talk about. And certainly lots of discussions happened around Sinners. That was absolutely true. But they need to like create a third position for like a middleman. They need to have a position called Bob What's His Head. And Bob What's His Head is his whole job is to, and this is what focus groups, I guess, are supposed to do, right? And test screenings are supposed to do, is they're supposed to get the audience involved and figure out what it is that's going to work for them. But think about what they did. One of the reasons why this is such an interesting discussion for people is like after 2020, when COVID happened, and the streaming services started dumping hundreds of millions of dollars just to put anything out there, just content. Get it filmed, get it made. Well, what do you end up with? You end up with Dead End Paranormal Park and conservative backlash on trans characters for kids 5 years later because they were greenlighting stuff that nobody wants, that nobody watches, that nobody cares about. And you go look at a Netflix now, or you look at an Amazon Prime now, and there's 100 movies on there that you've never heard of or never seen. Even the ones that are culturally relevant, like The Summer I Turned Pretty. It's okay for me to not know what that is. I'm 39, but Mary should absolutely be like the type of person. Maybe you're not their target demographic, but you should be clued in. And it wasn't until season 3 where it became like a whole thing, but somehow it was the most popular show in the world. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're just, the thing is there's too much to choose from. There are too many options now. And the way that the art has been kind of spread thin amongst all of these different companies, you know, this is why I say consolidation is a bad thing. I don't want to see less companies owning stuff. I want to see them expand and have more companies producing stuff. That way, you know, whatever Joel Edgerton's next, you know, stupid movie that nobody's going to go see can get made and he can quit complaining about it. But then you can't complain when they don't greenlight your next film because nobody went.
Every time I talk to a quote unquote normal person, a normie, about the things we talk about on this show, I pretty much just hear them say, I watch old stuff.
Yeah.
I only watch old stuff.
They're
now.
like me.
I'm not interested in anything that's coming out in theaters.
I watch High Potential. That's the only new thing that I'm watching now. And there have been a couple of things recently that I really, really like. And even the shows that I do like a High Potential, I like because it's made in the vein of something from the 2010s. Like it's in almost every way beat for beat, outside of maybe some stylistic choices, very much akin to a 2010 like dramedy procedural.
To what Dakota Johnson was saying, do you think they were taking more risks on creatives back then?
No, I think that there was less opportunity, so only the best got to do work.
Okay.
So so in the 2010s, there wasn't 10,000 things being made. So the really, really good creators ended up getting all of the work. As like I said, post 2020 streaming wars, everybody has to start just making stuff, and they'll just give jobs to anyone. And that's not very interesting. Even the funny thing is, I'm going to be doing a video, guys, on like the White Collar reboot possibly being like reinvigorated by the Louvre heist. And I was looking back at like the producers on that show, and all of them went on to be successful. Like all of them went on to do Marvel Netflix, like the good Marvel stuff back in, the 2016, 2017. They all went on to be successful because they were good at their job. Meritocracy mattered. Now they're just throwing work to anyone. And then you wonder why Joe Schmo 32 Electric Boogaloo, who is the Hollywood version of Bob What's-His-Head, can't get his movies done.
We have a couple 20s. Not That Jon Stewart said Francis Ford Coppola spent his own money on Megalopolis with a budget of 120 to 130 million. That made 14 million at the box office. I loved that movie, but it flopped.
You have to take that approach. Be like, look, every time a studio executive like gets a pitch from an actor, be like, would you spend your own money on it?
I have to give Coppola credit for Flopalopolis. At least he believed in himself.
I think I saw something that said he was like selling $1 million custom watch because of the failure of the movie.
He's like trying to start a Depop side hustle.
He's gonna start selling his clothes on Poshmark.
Right. Pop Culture Junkie said the current business model at some streamers is full of toxic ingredients, resulting in a badly flavored dish. Overly data-driven, researched up the ass decision making, combined with bloated budgets.
That's what somebody told me. That's literally how Netflix came up with House of Cards. They're like, people liked the original House of Cards. Our data also says people like Kevin Spacey. Let's put the two together and give them a special hug. Well, I mean, actually, I would argue that the show aged beautifully.
The Kevin Spacey,
at least his season,
so much.
Yes, that not so much.
But ask Dakota Johnson if she would have taken an executive producer role on what was that movie that she was in? I watched it. I literally went to the theaters to watch it.
Oh, the one where she's like the dating.
Yeah,
I don't even remember.
She was a dating concierge. Would she have executive produced that movie? I think maybe part of the solution here is getting talent to executive produce. For example, Jenna Ortega executive producing Wednesday.
Glenn Powell.
Sydney Sweeney executive producing a lot of her own projects, including the Christie biopic that's coming out soon.
Again, nobody's going, man. They're not going to go. Nobody's going to go. And again, that movie probably has a much smaller budget. It'll make its money back. I think the problem is he's talking about a genre that's just never going to get the big discussion points. Whatever movies Joel Edgerton is talking about, they're not going to be discussing it anyways because people are going to be talking about whatever Star Wars flop is coming out or whatever Marvel slop is coming out. And movie about a wayward logger, nobody cares. Sorry.
Wayward logger.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.